Hey y'all, welcome to Soccer for Us. I'm Bart, ready to talk about U.S. soccer, and on this episode, we are very much looking forward to the Concacaf Nations League finals, the Final Four. The USA will play Honduras on Thursday, and then we'll play the winner of the Costa Rica-Mexico match, or the loser of the Costa Rica-Mexico match, depending on how we perform on Thursday, on Sunday evening. And to break down what is going to be happening and what to look for in this 2-game little window, I am excited to welcome back to the podcast a soccer dad, coach, and player, and the purveyor of U.S. Soccer Corner on Twitter, Caleb Cook. Caleb, thanks for joining me again.
Man, always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We have a friendly that we can talk about. The U.S. just wrapped up a training camp and friendly with Switzerland over the Memorial Day weekend. Really just a test run about what it would feel for a full international window when they have to play a match on a weekend and then come back to the States for the World Cup qualifying window. We want to talk about that 2-1 loss to Switzerland, but most importantly, I just want to gauge how you feel going into this Nations League window.
I'm pretty confident. The U.S. fan base probably isn't, based on what you see on Twitter. I mean, you'd think the sky is falling, but I feel good. I think people are looking into things a little more than they should, probably. We're going into Nations League. It's the first real serious tournament and matches that we've been a part of in a long time. I think we're ready. I think a lot of this has been, experimentation, like we said in the last episode. I think the experimentations are out the window, and I think he really wants to play the best tournament we can possibly play. Now, is it his biggest concern? No, but I think we're going to see the best try.
Yeah, I think you just you triggered me a little bit there because it feels like Berhalter has not quite decided to switch into full-on we have to win mode. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he's felt that way throughout the Nations League. It's just a series of platforms, of stages on which he can experiment, which is fine. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about this when we start really talking about Nations League, but it wasn't a tough run to the finals. The U.S. should never have a tough run through anything CONCACAF. That's just the reality. But we were tested on Sunday against Switzerland. Switzerland, the number 13 team, according to the FIFA rankings, I think number 15, according to ELO. They are many, many spots ahead of the United States, depending on which ranking you look at. The U.S. is well behind them. And I don't necessarily think you can go based. It's not quite like college football where you can be like, oh, this team is number 1 or this team is number 7. But you can definitely use the FIFA rankings to kind of stratify teams into groups. And Switzerland are definitely in a group of teams that are pretty darn good and will likely make noise in their regional tournament this summer. I think that is a very valid and I don't even think it's a hot take or anything. It's a very easy assessment of Switzerland going into Euros. I mean, I think most people would expect them to, I don't know, maybe a semifinal run, but I think that if they made the semifinals of Euros, I don't think anyone would think of it as a shock. Let's put it that way. They're definitely one of the top teams in the world right now in terms of how well they are playing, and their player pool is pretty darn good. And I think people get like I had a friend text me immediately after, and he was just like, Switzerland, really? And I was like, dude, they're like the 13th best team in the world. They've got players playing all throughout Europe. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a reality check for some fans because we're kind of like, oh man, we have, Christian Pulisic won Champions League. We've got guys who were playing in Champions League. It was like, well, Switzerland does too, like they have some players who are pretty darn good and are playing in the same leagues that our players are in, and some that are even, they have more of them in those leagues. So I think, to your point, it seemed like the sky is falling a little bit because we have so much hope. We have so many expectations of where we think we should be. But at the end of the day, Greg Berhalter isn't looking at friendly performances as an ultimate measure of, everything that's going right or wrong with the program. Maybe that's where I have an issue, because I feel like you do have to try to win, and you need to build a winning culture, and winning cultures are usually built on winning. But I think at the end of the day, when I evaluated the performance on Sunday, I am upset with the performance in itself, because I don't think it was very good. But I don't think it means that the team isn't very good. And I certainly don't think it means that any players are particularly bad.
Right.
And I think that's where you have to kind of take a step back and realize what it was in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think what you just said, take a step back. That's the biggest thing. You see a lot of people going into depth about the analysis on the game. And, I don't have the energy to do that, because I don't think it meant enough to put the energy into doing that. I think it was an experiment and an exercise.
I don't know if it was necessarily an experiment, but I think it was an exercise. It was an exercise.
It was a training regimen, in my opinion.
And Switzerland almost approached it in the same manner.
It was a glorified scrimmage.
But both of them, I think, approached it, as you said, more of like a glorified scrimmage. It was a competitive scrimmage. It's a friendly. You could tell very early on in the game that both teams were like, oh, yeah, we have to play. A lot of things. I'm going to run through the match recap real quick, so that we're all kind of talking about the same stuff here. And then we can kind of evaluate a little bit more in depth about this USA-Switzerland match for a little bit. U.S. lost 2-1 to Switzerland on Sunday, May 30th in St. Gallen, Switzerland. The U.S. lined up in a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-3-3, however you want to put it. 11 guys out there, mostly with 4 defenders, 3-ish midfielders, and 3-ish attackers. Ethan Horvath in goal, left to right, Serginho Dest, John Brooks, Mark McKenzie, Reggie Cannon. And that was your defensive line. In the midfield, you had Jackson Ewell, Weston McKinney, and Sebastian Lletget. And then your 3 up top, again, left to right, Brendan Aronson, Josh Sargent, and Gio Reyna. Quickly, Caleb, your thoughts on that starting lineup? I mean, when it was announced, I don't think anyone had any real problems necessarily, but was there anything that surprised you by the starting 11?
I think the only surprise was Mark McKenzie starting over Matt Miazga.
Yeah.
Not that I'm surprised that he was able to win the starting job. It's just I thought going into it, Miazga was going to step right into the long role. That said, I'm happy about it.
Yeah,
I like Mark McKenzie a lot. I think he offers a bit more in possession. Miazga might be a little more physical. He's a bigger guy, but
he's older. He's more experienced. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why I thought he would be the one to step into the Aaron Long spot. But clearly, Mark McKenzie, through training and what he's done with his club, with Genk, everything, he's won that spot.
Yeah.
Now things may have been different if Chris Richards was healthy.
If Aaron Long were healthy,
Aaron Long, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I was surprised but happy, and I thought he played well. Other than that, it was pretty much what I thought it was going to be. No Pulisic, no Tyler Adams, no Zach Steffen. We kind of all know who's going to step into those roles. The only kind of toss-up I thought was maybe the 6, because I wasn't sure if it was going to be Ewell.
I thought Acosta would have started, but I think Berhalter prefers Ewell to Acosta, and that's fine.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I thought this actually. I'll say that I think the starting 11 is probably the best 11 that he picked from the 6-7 man squad he had, and I think that to your point, there are obvious places where a better player will slot in. Obviously, I think Zach Steffen is your starter in goal, and I think Brendan Aronson tries really hard and he's fun to watch. But Christian Pulisic starts on the left wing. Other than that, I don't think you see any changes in a quote first choice 11 for Greg Berhalter. And I'm not talking about Adams because I don't know his fitness level. So That was the U.S. lineup. Switzerland lined up in a 3-4-3, a pretty standard system for them and a lot of European teams. Again, I just want to point out that there were tons of players on this roster for Switzerland that are playing in top 5 leagues. They're not just playing in the Swiss league. They're playing in Germany. They're playing in Ligue 1. They're playing in Serie A. They're playing in the Premier League. A lot of them playing Champions League minutes. So a very good, talented squad. The U.S. opened the scoring in the 5th minute with Sebastian Lletget hammering home a ricocheted cross. I really liked this series of play from the U.S., with the caveat that no one defended Gio Reyna in his cross. Like, literally turned their back and walked away.
Yeah.
Gio whips it across to Josh Sargent, who cut to that spot kind of like between the penalty mark and the top of the 6th. A really good run, I thought, by Josh Sargent. Not the best cross from Gio, but I think at the end of the day, it was a mostly dangerous ball. It was a pretty dangerous run, and that resulted in the ball being poorly cleared. It kind of hits Lletget, who then it hits Aronson, who kind of settles it, if you will, right in front of Lletget, who just slots it home for the lead. And, that was really the first attacking phase the United States had all game. And I think it was actually pretty indicative of the rest of the match, where the U.S., when they finally broke through the Switzerland press, were able to possess the ball and progress it upfield, they actually looked pretty decent in the attack.
Yeah, I thought the first half, for the most part, we looked good. A lot of decent ideas. Like you said, on the cross in for Gio, he was kind of just standing there daring him to cross it.
He was like, all right, do it.
So that said, you wonder how much, effort was really going into any of it at that point.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to take away from the positives, which there were some. But for the first half, there were stretches where we controlled the match. Which I
think there were chunks where we chunks of time.
I think says a lot when you look
at
at the age and experience disparity.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I saw a stat talking about the age and experience. Basically, for the U.S., cumulative caps was at 149, and Switzerland had 586 cumulative caps. So that right there goes to show you that people want to say, "Oh, it was just Switzerland." Okay, look, hey, Switzerland is it? Are we talking about Germany, Spain, Brazil, Argentina? No, but they're in that next tier, and we're not.
And that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. And we controlled this match for large stretches. And this was a good example of us being able to, we were able to create a very solid attacking chance out of this. Now, you can talk about the level of intensity that the match had, but I think for the most part, you saw that early on. Now, we quickly surrendered the lead in the 10th minute on a bad series of defending from everyone, not named Ethan Horvath. I think everyone on the left side at some point messed up in this series. Josh Sargent doesn't really close down the goalkeeper well. Then Brendan Aronson gets beat, and then Sergiño Dest is really high up the field, and all of a sudden Shaqiri is open and driving at our back line. Ewell and Dest somehow aren't in the picture, passes it off to Widmer, and he hits a big switch to Ricardo Rodriguez, who hits a left-footed shot from outside the box to the bottom right corner. Now, I will give some credit to John Brooks, Mark McKenzie, and Reggie Cannon, because I thought that they actually covered this play kind of okay.
For the situation that they were in.
Right. Like, they kind of got left hung out to dry, and they're like, shift. Okay, fine. They've responded somewhat well. It just sucks that Reggie Cannon couldn't quite get his full body in front of the shot. It hits off of his heel, and Ethan Horvath had no chance to save it. So we're tied at 1-1. Unfortunately, this was a little bit of a premonition for what would happen the rest of the match, where Switzerland was very easily able to attack us, especially down our left-hand side, but attack through our midfield and throw numbers forward. Really, after that, the U.S. though looked really good. And unfortunately, then the first time that Switzerland was really dangerous after that was 42nd minute. Switzerland gets a ball over top of the back line to, I think it was Widmer again, and he tries to take a ball down that's flipped over top, and he volleys it back across goal, and it hits Serginho Dest on the arm. I will say I do not think that was a handball. I don't know how Serginho Dest could have, reacted anywhere else. But as we all know, ball don't lie, and Rodriguez missed the penalty, and no harm, no foul, basically. I do want to point out that Ethan Horvath did dive the correct way.
Yeah. If it has been on frame, he may have gotten a hand to it.
He may have gotten a hand to it, yeah. I don't know. I mean, that was really the only time in the second half that either team looked that close to scoring. I thought they were pretty evenly matched throughout the second half, with the United States looking more in control of the game. So that goes us to halftime. It's 1-1. I mean, that first half, you said it seemed like we were pretty darn good.
Yeah, I didn't have any, and I'll just say this overall, for the entire game, I didn't have any big qualms or any problems necessarily with what we saw. But I was also watching with, I'd already made up my mind that I wasn't going to take a lot from it, I guess is how I should say it. So I was happy. I mean, going 1-1, when you took the lead, it's hard not to be happy. Now, if you're hanging on every single touch that a player makes, then yeah, I can see how some people are going to be disappointed. But overall, with what we've already talked about with the age and the experience, I mean, I think you got to be somewhat happy.
Yeah, I was very happy with that first half. I thought that we looked in control of ourselves. I'll just put it that way. I thought we looked in control of ourselves, which is a very stark contrast to the second half where we were chasing the game badly. We were chasing runners. We were not able to seem to know who we needed to mark or where we needed to be defensively. I thought from a team defensive standpoint, it was shambolic. And I don't want to be overreaction, but it just looked really bad from a team defensive standpoint.
It got really disconnected. Yeah, it got really disconnected.
And it really started as soon as that whistle blew to start the second half. 61st minute, we made 3 subs. Tim Ream came on to replace John Brooks, Yunus Musa for Leggett, and Kellen Acosta for Jackson Ewell. And then things fell apart. Almost immediately, runner, I think it was Mbolo, drives right past Tim Ream, and luckily that did not result in a goal. And then 2 minutes later, Switzerland finally get the go-ahead to go through Stephen Zuber. Kind of a weird goal the way he actually scored the goal, but the build-up is really the more important part. Zuber gets the ball in space, attacks space. No one really closes him down until he meets, I think it was McKenzie. And then he just has time and space to clip a ball behind everyone and onto a running Mbolo, who kind of misses it. Dest doesn't control it. He doesn't clear it. It just deflects off of him, basically. It goes right to Mbolo, who tries to get an attack on goal. Tim Reed, to his credit, is able to come back and slide to make a tackle to block the shot, but it goes right to Zuber, who puts it past Horvath, and they're up 2-1. This was pretty much how it felt the entire second half, where it was like, who's marking who?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was concerning to me.
Well, I think, when I'm playing adult league and we bring in 3 subs quickly, it takes a second to get a grip on where everybody's at, who was playing here, where do I step? Sometimes it hurts having too many subs in adult leagues, because you can't have that chemistry, and there are so many changing parts. And it was almost kind of like that, where you had all these guys coming in, and there was just these moments of disconnect. Yeah. And we paid for it. Now,
especially when Tim Ream came on, a center back, and then Acosta comes on, your defensive midfielder. So those are 2 of 3 players right down the middle who have to be on the same wavelength, and they did not seem like they were communicating well at all, and they didn't seem like they were communicating well with Mark McKenzie either.
Well, I think, there was a moment where Tim Ream was pushed up pretty high and got beat for pace very easily. And
got beat for pace a
to
lot
me,
today.
When you're going to be pushing really high and pressing like we were, you need athletic center backs that can recover like a Miles Robinson from Atlanta. And then you need – that's why I think Tyler Adams is so important. You need a 6 who can just disrupt the counter and disrupt what's happening, because you are pushing so high. There are going to be moments where you're caught in a counter and you've got to be able to deal with it, and we did not deal with it. Now, I want to take a moment and say we kind of talked about it at the beginning of the pod, but with this game, I want to pull back a little bit, get away from the microscope and look at it a really broad picture. If you look at our goal, it was a pinball type situation, and we put it. Okay, well, they had one just like that, a pinball goal situation, and he puts it in. Let's take those goals away, right? Let's say they neutralize each other, and then there's one other goal that separates it. And what was that? Mm-hmm. It was a cross to a guy coming down the wing who takes a nice hit, and our defender closes him down a little bit, turns his body, it clips off of him, and it ricochets into the net. Had it not hit him, our keeper had the ball played. But that was the difference, right? So when you look at it like that, we can dig into individual performances. We can dig into, this was bad, this was bad. But if you look at it and say, man, that was the difference in the game. Now, they had a lot of wide open opportunities, like we said, poor defensive rotation, pickups, but when you look at the disparity in quality, experience, age, that makes me feel a little bit better. It's like, okay, it was 2-1, but it could have gone either way. But that's soccer, right? That happens all the time. Where the difference, I mean, let's say Reggie Cannon doesn't deflect that ball, Horvath saves it, and Gio Reyna's shot in the second half was 6 inches to the left. Yeah. We win 2-1. Yeah. Even though we played like crap. And then you don't have people screaming and losing their minds on Twitter. Right?
Yeah, I think I will say, when you look at the XG, you look at the shots, they're actually fairly they're actually the same. 11 shots for each team, 5 of them on goal. Possession was 54 to 46 in favor of Switzerland. So not like a great disparity there. But the XG, Switzerland was like at 3, and we were just below 1.5. So I do think that it was very clear that Switzerland created better chances.
Oh, absolutely.
Overall, a better team on the day. I don't think it was necessary, but that doesn't mean that it was a dominating performance.
Right. I don't think it's reason to worry when we're going and we're going to go play Honduras, which is ranked. What are they? Are they 70?
They're in the 50s. They're in their 50s. Yeah.
And when you get down that low, you're splitting hairs, right? I don't want to say we're gonna dominate the Nations League.
Oh, they are.
We're surely not going to dominate Mexico. But I'm not worried because we lost this game to Switzerland, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I want to go back to that Mexico thought when we get into Nations League talk, because I think there's an important point there. But to close out this match, basically you have a couple more subs. You have Tim Weah come on for Gio Reyna. Jordan Siabachi comes on for Josh Sargent. And then with 10 minutes to play, Yedlin comes on for Cannon. I don't think any of those guys did anything to make themselves look good or bad. No. I think it was very much a lifeless friendly after Switzerland got their second goal. They may have had a couple of other chances, but at the end of the day, neither team was going hard, because Switzerland has, I think, another tune-up with Liechtenstein, and then they play the Euros. So both teams, both managers, both groups were like, we got more important things to do. But overall, I mean, again, I think that it was that Switzerland was clearly a better team. I don't think that's a shock. I don't think that should be surprising to anyone. They are a better team than the United States. Exactly. We can talk about all the cool things that we've done in leagues this year. That is awesome. Mm-hmm. Our players are doing things that we've never experienced before as U.S. soccer fans.
Yep.
Switzerland's been doing that for ages, and there's a reason why they're number 13 or 15 in the world. They are not in Group A. They may not necessarily be in Group B, but they're definitely in Group C. Mm-hmm. They're definitely that group where you go, they could make a good run in a tournament. They are the team they're a team that has a lot of experienced players that most of whom, yes, play in the Bundesliga, a lot of them for Borussia Mönchengladbach. But it was a weird amount of players on that Gladbach team. But they're all playing at very top levels, and they have been playing professional minutes for a very long time. And they're not old. I don't think that would be the way I could describe Switzerland. They are, I think, at the age where this is, for most of these players, this is their last real cycle. Not because they're old, but because after this, there's just an obvious drop down. So they are looking to make an impact. And something else that we haven't really talked about is the coaching. And I will say that I think Berhalter got out coached, but it's a friendly, so who cares? Mm-hmm. I kind of do. But the Switzerland coach has been with Switzerland for, since before the last cycle. Mm-hmm. 2014. So he's been there for almost 2 full cycles, and has been able to really impart his style of play and the style of play that the Swiss are implementing into this team. Everyone knows it. That's what Berhalter wants to do. So, I think if you're looking for something to be positive about, you look at it and go, this is where we could possibly be a couple of years down the line. The problem is we don't really have that much time. So I will leave it at that about coaching. Yeah. Any other thoughts about this friendly and the 2-1 loss to Switzerland?
I mean, I just, you talked about the last few subs, and the only one that really stuck out was Tim Weah. I think of the guys that came on really late, he got himself involved.
Yes. Yeah.
He did a few things that were like, okay, I see you. I see what you're doing there. Siabachu, I mean, you could have told me that he didn't play and I'd believe you. And that's not a knock on him. I like him. It just,
I do too.
I think the game was gone at that point. So
I thought it was funny. Someone, I think it was Scuffed podcast said this, where I think it was Scuffed, where they said, no, it wasn't Scuffed. It was, 11 Yanks said this. He was like, I didn't rate Josh Sargent very highly until I saw Jordan Siabachu come on. And it was just like, I hate to say it, but it was like, I think if anything, it just makes another case of why Josh Sargent is Berhalter's preferred starting striker. And we are now going to talk about that as we transition into Nations League, because this striker conversation has to be had when we talk about this Nations League roster. So again, U.S. loses to Switzerland 2-1 in Switzerland. Now we come home to Denver, and we're going to play. We're recording Tuesday. They started training in Denver today. Mm-hmm. We could talk about whether or not I think this was a great idea to actually try it out this way. I kind of like Mexico's idea better of playing here in the States before going to the tournament, but whatever. They didn't exactly play well against Iceland. Regardless, we have 2 Nations League matches to look at. The first one is going to be on Thursday, June 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It is on a multitude of channels. You can stream it on Paramount Plus. You can watch it on cable, actually, on CBS Sportsnet. Found that out today. If you are a subscriber to YouTube TV, you can watch it on CBS Sportsnet. And some cable providers and satellite providers actually carry that as well. You can also watch it, if you prefer, on your local Univision station. The U.S. match will be on the local Univision station as well. So lots of ways to watch this match. The Nations League. It's not the first time I'm going to say that CONCACAF Champions League versus Nations League. Not the first time. And I know I'm not the only person who's doing that. So the inaugural CONCACAF Nations League. This started back in 2019. If you remember, this is part of CONCACAF's plan to kind of grow the game where lower teams are playing more matches, but because that helps them in FIFA rankings, which ultimately does help the United States. I want to say, ultimately it'll help us in FIFA rankings. Not that matters all that much, but it does help them. It gets those teams more competitive matches, which means more money for their federations and more money for CONCACAF. Great. But the way it's stratified is the U.S. is in League A, which is the top league. They were in Group A, and they won the group against Canada and Cuba. A little weird, but we get through on 9 points on goal differential over Canada. It was a little too close for my liking, but that's how we advanced to the Nations League final. I think Canada was probably the most dangerous team outside of the top four who won the groups, so I will say that. But U.S. wins Group A. Honduras won Group C with 10 points over Martinique and Trinidad, two teams who are quite honestly just not that great. Martinique's okay. Trinidad has been in a tailspin since they beat us. Somehow that was the only thing they've done right in the past 10 years. Not salty, it's fine. No. So Honduras wins Group C. We are now paired together in this semifinal of the CONCACAF Nations League being held in Denver. Caleb, I mean, it's hard to go back, but what did you make of the 2019 version of Greg Berhalter's team and how we got into the Nations League finals?
I think the biggest thing.
Can you remember back that far? We've had an entire pandemic.
It's hard, but the thing that sticks out is the player pool that he was selecting from. You look at guys now and you're like, oh man, we got so much talent. Yeah, but 2 years ago, some of this talent was 16 years old. Some of this talent was 17.
Yeah.
So you weren't calling those guys in. So who were you calling in? Christian Roldan, José Zardes, Daniel Lovitz. Serginho Dest wasn't on anyone's radar at the time. We got through. Yeah, it was closer than we liked, but I'd say it was on par with what we were working with. Those were some rough matches to watch.
Even that Cuba match that we won at home was like, I don't want to say it was bad because we won like 6-0, if I remember correctly, but it was just so boring.
But it wasn't because we were amazing.
So boring. Yeah, it was just Cuba's bad. Cuba got into League A because they had a really good group of players for like 2 years.
And they all defected.
And they all defected to the United States. They had a really decent Gold Cup run right before this, so they had points basically, and they have fallen off significantly since then. But yeah, we went on. We beat Cuba 7-0 to start. We fall to Canada up in Toronto 2-0. The ever dangerous and scary BMO field of Toronto, Canada. Somehow that was like some scary thing for Berhalter, and we completely failed up there and lost 2-0. Come back home though and looked like a different team against Canada in a 4-1 win at Exploria Stadium, and then finished the job in the Cayman Islands against Cuba 4-0. So I do think that to some extent Berhalter was still in the implement the system, got to teach the style of play I want, got to teach all this. At that point in time, it really was a capital T, capital S system because he was so dedicated to teaching this exact thing that we were going to do.
Right.
That flipped in that Canada home match because I think he realized what Canada's strengths were and how we could counterbalance that. Because I got to be honest, Canada is a pretty solid team. Yeah. They do not scare me in World Cup qualifying. I'm sorry to say that. They just don't, because I think that top to bottom, their depth lacks. But they have pretty darn good players in positions where you can't be caught out of place. And we did that up in Canada, and they hurt us 2-0. We didn't create anything. It was terrible. It was probably the worst game I've seen the United States play. It was that most other bad game that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah, it was probably the angriest I've been in a while. Because
even the Mexico match that we had lost previous to that, and that like month before, it was bad because we lost 3-0, but like Berhalter was like, look, I get it. Like, he was like, why are you mad? We did what we wanted to do. And I was like, what? But looking back, I understood what he was trying to say. They played out of the back. They were committed to it. They were learning the style. It was like, okay, I got it. It's a friendly. You really are sticking to this thing. But that match was like, yo, this matters.
Yeah. Well, and then it's an expectations thing too. He basically said with the Mexico, I don't care about the result without saying I don't care about the result.
Which sounded bad against Mexico. If you say that against Uruguay, or if you say that against Brazil, or even if you say that against Switzerland, whatever. I just don't say that against Mexico.
Right.
That's the one friendly that you need to win.
I'm with you, but I think with the Canada thing, it was the same situation, right? He was trying to implement a system, but we didn't lose to Mexico. We lost to Canada, which is why we were so angry.
And we lost to Canada playing a system, and he changed it. We were playing in a more passive defensive setup, which didn't suit us well, and it certainly didn't suit us well against Canada, who were not going to try to really play through the middle all that much. And he quickly changed it. I'll give him credit. He changed it immediately for that next match, where he said, you know what, fine, we're going to press, we're going to get the ball, and work in transition. And it worked. And we're still seeing that that's, pretty much the kind of system he wants.
Yeah, there was a turning point.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to the whole where, like, what bothers me with Berhalter sometimes is he's so dedicated to this one style of play. And, there's this, the trend on TikTok right now is, what was plan A? What was plan? Don't fuck up. What was plan B? Don't fuck up plan A. And what did you do? We fucked up plan A. And it's like, that's kind of Berhalter's mentality, especially in 2019. It was like, yeah, we have plan A. Well, what's plan B? What's plan B? Well, do plan A better. It's like, it fell apart against Canada. He had to find a new plan A. Yeah. I still don't think he has a plan B. And that bothers me a little bit, because I think that what you're going to see is against a team like Canada that is decently, they're decent. They're a solid team. Again, they don't scare me in World Cup qualifying, because I think that as we saw, we can get them in at home pretty fine. Oh, yeah. But what they do possess is competency on the ball. And we're going to face that against Honduras and Costa Rica and other teams like that. And Berhalter's system is so predicated on having the ball. He's so possession heavy, which is great. I'm happy for that. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't seem to think about the times when, oh, wait, what if we don't have the ball? Because other teams want to have the ball too. And that's been an issue that I had. That was an issue I had with him before that, is like, other teams are going to try to take the ball from us. Most of the good teams are going to be able to do that. This style of play is to beat Concacaf, sure, but like 3 or 4 teams in Concacaf are still pretty okay, and one is really darn good. And I just feel like the system doesn't really account for the fact that other teams want to have the ball too sometimes.
Well, you talk about Canada. They have a really, really good attack. I mean, Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, Jonathan Osorio, they've got really good attacking players.
Mark Anthony Kay.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. And these are very good transition players.
And that's it right there. They struggle defensively, and because we're not any slouches when it comes to attack, but we'll be susceptible to that counter. And I don't want to see Reggie Cannon trying to chase down Alphonso Davies on a counter, because I like Reggie Cannon.
No one's winning.
He's not winning that matchup.
No one's winning.
So Can Berhalter look at that and then look at the Switzerland match and say, we're pushing really high. I want to commit to the press. I want to play really high tempo, all that kind of stuff. Okay, great. Then you can't play Jackson Ewell at the 6. Sorry. And here's why. I like Jackson Ewell. I thought he's played really, really well. When you're playing and you're possessing, great. But when you are going to press really high and they're going to play and they're going to counter, like Honduras with Albert Elise. I mean, the dude is so fast and so good on the counter. You have got to have somebody who's going to stand in the middle and be an athletic. I would rather him play like an Owen Otasawi as a 6 over a Jackson Ewell, just for the fact that he has the athleticism to disrupt that counter. Yeah. It's something that he's got to look at.
And that's something that he's going to have to figure out because, Honduras have some pretty good attacking talent. Romel Kyoto, Brian Acosta, Albert Elise are very good players who can quickly turn from defense to attack. And especially with Elise running at our back line, that's, scary. So I feel I'm with you, like wanting to have the ball and possess the ball and disrupting through possession. All these things are great in theory. But I think Berhalter, and I think we saw this again on Switzerland, was he doesn't always account for the fact that the other team wants to have the ball too. And I don't think that Honduras is a possession-heavy team, but I definitely think they're a team that will want to try to play soccer.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a few things saying they're more likely to bunker against a USA-type team. When they're playing more their tier, they're probably going to want to play more with the ball.
Right.
I think they're going to bunker more, but that means we've got to worry because we're going to be pushed up high trying to break that bunker. So we have got to be careful because, like you said, they've got some attacking talent. But Albert Elise is elite. I mean, he has incredible speed, and he will burn us. It's one of those times where you would wish we'd have somebody like a Miles Robinson. I think, not just as an Atlanta fan, but just looking at his skill set, his recovery speed and his 1v1 defending is easily top 3 in the U.S. player pool. And, I'm not saying he's a top 3 center back in the player pool. I'm just talking about those specific skill sets. And when we're playing certain international teams that are going to bunker and then counter, it might pay dividends to play a center back like a Miles Robinson.
Yeah.
Versus only guys that can play with their feet and play in possession. That being said, hey, side note, Miles Robinson can play with his feet.
He has shown that this year pretty well, actually.
Yes, he has, and I can't wait because foreshadow. I hope he's in the Gold Cup. I really, really, really do. But in the Nations League, it's gonna be Brooks and McKenzie, I'm sure. McKenzie's not slow, but none of those guys have the recovery speed. When we do get called in counter. And when I say when we do, not if we do, because it's going to happen. Yeah. It's going to happen. There's no way it won't with us playing the way that Berhalter wants to play, pushing as high as he wants to push, and committing to the press, which all great things. You're going to give up a counter goal every now and then. Look at Man City. They are always pushing really high. And guess what? They get caught sometimes. It happens. Yeah. But they have the quality to, we give up a goal, but we just scored 3, so who cares? We're not there yet.
No, and let's talk about the players on this roster because we previewed the Switzerland match with the caveat of hey, we're only talking about the players here, but we did talk a little bit about the players that would be in this Nations League roster. It's pretty straightforward. I do think that the players available, this is the best collection of 23, save 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. Goalkeepers, Ethan Horvath, David Ochoa, Zach Steffen. I think that Ochoa is kind of not a top 3 keeper, but I think it's because Matt Turner is clearly getting all of Gold Cup. I think that's
100%.
That's obviously what's going to happen.
Yep.
So David Ochoa, he's the third goalkeeper. Get him in there, get him experience. I'm fine with that. Yep. Zach Steffen, I think, is the starter. I thought Horvath played a really good game against Switzerland, but Zach Steffen's been gifted the number 1 shirt for some reason, and there's been no real competition.
Yeah.
But I won't talk more about that.
Horvath, he was with his performance, he was saying, hey, don't forget about me, because I think so many people, put Zach Steffen number 1 and then, Matt Turner's number 2 just immediately. Yeah. And
realizing
Horvath saying, hey, guess what? I can play too.
Yeah, Ethan Horvath has been in Europe for almost 10 years. I mean, his professional career has been I mean, maybe not 10 years, sorry, but he started out in 2013 in Europe. So he's been there for, almost 10 years.
Yep.
The defenders, I think this is, again, probably the best collection of defenders we could put together right now. John Brooks, Reggie Cannon, Sergino Dest, Mark McKenzie, Matt Miazga, Tim Ream, Anthony Robinson, and DeAndre Yedlin. Obviously, the notable misses are Aaron Long and Chris Richards. They are both injured. Everyone else, I think it was a natural shift up. I think that's a little bit why Mark McKenzie was included in this pool because I think Chris Richards would have taken that slot. But to your point from earlier, seems like he has proven himself to be that starting right center back.
Yeah, and I'm happy for him. He's pushed, and I don't know if you've heard or listened to his podcast with Heath Pierce, the Orange Slices. Yeah. It's a great podcast. Man, I've really grown to like him. I like the way he carries himself, and there have been a few times where he's talking about the future of the U.S. and I'm just ready to run through a wall. He clearly has some sort of leadership qualities there, and Berhalters seem to notice.
I think that's why he got the start against Switzerland. I'd like to say that he'll start against Honduras. I think that McKenzie complements Brooks similarly to the way that Aaron Long could complement Brooks, but McKenzie is also very good in possession, and that's going to be helpful. Midfielders, Kellen Acosta, Tyler Adams, Sebastian Lletget, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, and Jackson Ewell. Basically, everyone who was in Switzerland midfield-wise is here. A couple of guys who were just training. But, I think the big question here is the Tyler Adams question, because if he's healthy, he needs to start. If he's not healthy, who starts behind him? I will also say that I think that the Honduras match, I can deal with Tyler Adams not being able to play because we should be okay without him against Honduras. But we need him healthy for Mexico or Costa Rica.
Yeah, I think we can get into a little bit of, what are we going to see versus Honduras based on the minutes that were played versus Switzerland.
That's a whole nother conversation that I have to.
Right, which makes you think there's a lot of
Dustin McKinney played 90 minutes.
Yeah.
There's no way they're not playing and starting this match.
Sargent played 72.
Yeah.
You had
Mark McKenzie.
Brooks played 70, I think.
He played 60. He played 60. He got taken out for Ream.
That's right. There you go.
McKenzie played all 90. McKenzie played all 90. Cannon played 81 minutes. So that's a lot of time.
There was a video put out, and he was talking about, hey guys, listen, we're going to use all 23 guys. So maybe he was going into this Honduras game this whole time knowing there's going to be a good bit of rotation there.
I just disagree with that because there were a couple of guys who made – obviously the logical one would have been you put Christian Pulisic in for Brendan Aronson. So why not run Brendan Aronson out for the whole time, which he did. Maybe another guy that you could have played less would have been a Gio Reyna. Because I think that he is one of your clear starters. I think Sargent playing 70 isn't that big of a deal to me. I think that's a perfectly okay, whatever, that's fine. But McKenzie going 90, McKenzie going 90, and Dest going 90 seems like a lot. And I feel like you could have, instead of Yedlin going in for Cannon, you could have put Robinson in for Dest just to give him a little bit of break. I don't know if there was any other midfield options that you really could have brought on. Maybe Musa for McKennie, but,
Right. No, I'm with you.
But Musa came on for Lletget. So
I'm not sure what's going to happen. I think maybe Berhalter's looking ahead and saying, okay, I want these starters ready for Mexico. And he's with how just thoughtful he is with most things. I don't think he's looking past Honduras. I don't know. It's weird, and it's a weird situation to be in. And
I wasn't happy.
It makes predicting what's going to happen with Honduras extremely difficult. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have any idea what he's going to do. I don't.
Well,
I guess I'm on pins and needles to see when that roster drops, or the lineup rather.
So we have the 6 midfielders. I don't think those midfielders are at all a surprise. I think those 6 midfielders are the guys that he was going to bring no matter what. I would have liked to maybe have seen Luca Della Torre. I would have liked to have maybe seen. No, that's really it. I don't know if anyone else that I would have been like, yeah, bring him in, because I mean, at this, realistically, you're not calling in Keaton Parks right now. You're not calling in James Sands right now, realistically. Anyway, so that's your midfield. Forwards, Brendan Aronson, Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Josh Sargent, and Jordan Siebatcheu and Tim Weah. Now, I said in the last podcast, I think that the Siebatcheu choice was the correct choice. And I'm here to defend that right now, because I think when you look at what and the way, I said it earlier, I don't think Berhalter has plan B. He's sticking with plan A. And if plan A doesn't work, just do plan A better. Daryl Dike does not fit in with the plan A. And everyone who wants Daryl Dike said, oh, well, he offers a different look or he does this and that. I agree. He's a very different type of player from Josh Sargent. That does not fit the system that Greg Berhalter wants to play. That doesn't mean that I don't think that Daryl Dike can't do that, because apparently that's when, again, you get into these conversations that have nothing to do with what we're trying to talk about, player evaluation. Mm-hmm. And to be unfair to Dike a little bit, it's not his fault that he went to Barnsley, who plays nothing regarding or resembling modern football. Like, they don't. They play 1980s English football.
Yeah,
whereas
terrible to watch.
Yeah, whereas at least Josh Sargent is playing in a league and a team where he's asked to, play defense higher up the field. He's asked to connect with teammates. I'm not saying Werder Bremen do it well, because they don't. They're terrible. But he is at least used to this style of play, and his skill set fits the style of play better.
Yeah.
So I think if you're looking for a guy to back up Josh Sargent, Jordan Siebatcheu makes the most sense, because he offers similar qualities that Sargent has. He's also quite tall. He's about 6'3". Mm-hmm. He's a little bit slimmer than Daryl Dike, but he is tall like Dike. And in theory, he is also used to the higher press kind of pace of play and playing with the ball on the ground, linking up with other teammates than Daryl Dike. So that's why I think Siebatcheu is the best choice for what Berhalter is doing right now. And also, I'm not saying Siebatcheu has impressed in anything, but Daryl Dike hasn't exactly looked great in any of the teams. He's created chances for himself like he normally does, because he's big and strong and fast, while being able to still carry that ball with him in a very controlled way.
Yeah.
But he hasn't converted, and that's been kind of the knock on him, is he outperforms his XG, and it's like, well, at what point does that come down to normal human levels as opposed to superhuman? Yeah. All that said about Daryl Dike, he needs to be sold from Orlando City. He does not need to play another game in MLS. Get that man out of the league so that I don't have to watch him play my team ever again.
He hurts Atlanta for sure.
He hurts every team in the league.
And I'm shocked that he didn't get moved, to be honest with you.
Well, I think it was just Barnsley didn't want him or wasn't going to buy him, but I think he'll come back, and by the time the transfer window opens in Europe, he'll have a team in the championship who wants him. I think that's probably what's going to happen.
I'm sure.
Any other forward thoughts? I mean, I said my piece about Siebatcheu versus Dike. I think that's the only point of contention in this roster. Really, that's the only point of contention in this roster.
I mean, I think we could talk a little bit about Josh Sargent for just a minute.
It's a worthwhile conversation.
Do what?
It's a worthwhile conversation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think he got a lot of hate based on this match in Switzerland. But to be fair to Sargent, we didn't play the way we normally play. He was played more as a target striker, which would have benefited more of a DK style.
Right.
How often was he dropping into midfield to get on the ball? Not very often.
Yeah.
And that will lead me down to drop to the midfield for a second. The reason why he didn't is because you have McKinney and Leggett playing pretty high, both of them.
Yeah.
You had 2 8s playing really high. They're occupying all that space that he would normally drop into. And here's why I like Sebastian Leggett. The guy scored. He can play. I really like him.
Yeah, I have no problems with Sebastian Lletget.
I don't want him to start.
I don't want him to start against Mexico. Let's put it that way.
I don't want him to start with McKinney. I would have no problem with Musa and Lletget or Musa and McKinney. The reason why is because Musa offers a lot more defensive cover. He's a lot stronger on that ball, and he's going to help break that press a little bit more when we are deep in our area. He's more of a box-to-box, whereas Lletget is more of a 10 or an inverted type winger. So
Lletget isn't one who's going to shake off a defender and dribble past him, whereas Musa, we've seen him do that.
When you get
Lletget is a great passer and connector.
When you get into those 50-50s, Musa, I mean, yeah, he's a teenager, but my God, he
knows
is
how to win a 50-50.
Freaking beast. Yeah. And Lletget's not going to do that. And he's not going to be dropping defensively like Musa can and will do. What we saw in the Jamaica and Northern Ireland friendlies, that's what Musa was doing. When you had those 2-8s, Musa was more of the defensive cover. I think it makes you stronger in midfield. So I have no problem with Lletget giving Weston a break or coming on for Weston, or if you're chasing a goal, bringing a Musa off and putting him in there so you're playing a little bit higher. But they're playing the same type of role, and I'm not a big fan of that. And like I said, it occupied a lot of that space for Sargent to drop in.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like it was really weird in attack.
Well, and I think also the problem I had was we weren't able to, especially during the second half, we weren't able to break out of our back line through the midfield, it felt like. And I'm putting that a lot of it on Jackson Ewell. But it felt like the option was go long to Sargent, and that isn't his best game. Certainly not when you're playing against two center backs who are as quality as the Swiss center backs are. It's not going to be a great game to play against Honduras.
And when the referee is not making,
he let them play.
He let them play, and
he was cashing that check, man.
And I'm not just trying to defend Sargent. He did the same. It was going both ways, so he was consistent with it. But I mean, these guys on
he was cashing that check, man.
There were 50-50 long balls. Guys are getting upended, and he's
it's like, all right, playing. Cool. Yeah, there are a couple times that I'm like, Sargent should have got a foul there, but he didn't. And that was a knock that I know a lot of people had on him, is he didn't even draw a lot of fouls. And that, to your point, I think it was more the style of play the ref was letting happen.
Which he has to
but I think he does. But I think looking at Honduras specifically, I think that Sargent is going to offer more of what we need, because he doesn't there's no point to sit on the back line of Honduras because they're just going to bunker anyway. You're going to have two blocks of four. Or a block of 4 and a block of 5 or a block of 5, however they set up. It's going to be, I think it'll be very similar to how they beat us in Olympic qualifying. But even in that Olympic qualifying game, Honduras enjoyed having the ball when they had it. They were very direct and they knew what they were doing, but you could see that they were looking to get that ball back to then spring a counterattack. And that's different than just bunkering. And I think that's the problem I'm concerned with. But I'm also looking at that from a positive when you look at Josh Sargent, because he'll be able to just kind of connect with the players around him and work in combination. At least that's the hope, because there's no point to have him sitting on that back, the back line, occupying a center back on the back line, trying to stretch the field that way. He needs to connect with the midfielders and allow space behind him. So I think in that sense, he'll be fine. Does that mean I don't think that Daryl DK can do that? No. Does that mean that I don't think that Jordan Siabachu can do it? No, I think they're capable of doing that. But I think Josh Sargent clearly does that better,
right?
Compared to at least in Berhalter's eyes.
He's the best in the pool for sure at doing that specific role.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that to our point last conversation was, don't expect this striker in this role to score 10 goals. That's just not their goal.
Right.
That's not their role in this system. But Josh Sargent offers a lot of other good things. So
do we see Sargent start against Honduras?
And I don't see why Sargent doesn't start both matches.
You think so?
Don't. I think if anything, your rotation will come from your outside backs a little bit. I could see that. But I don't see why you're not starting Pulisic, and I don't see why you're not starting Sargent against Honduras. Because, look, you have to win this game. You have to.
Oh, absolutely.
Even in a World Cup qualifier, you can kind of play the whole who's who we have in this? You prioritize the matches in your window because they're not all must win. And I'm going to get killed for saying that. But, you don't have to go on the road and beat Canada to be able to then play the next game.
Right.
You have to beat Honduras in order to even play Mexico.
Right.
And, don't act like the Mexican team isn't also dealing with, coming up at the end of their season. They just finished La Liguilla. Congrats to Cruz Azul finally cracking that code. Mm-hmm. But, they are also facing a compressed schedule, a heavy legs. And, you have to beat Honduras. You have to. You have to put as strong of a side as you can out there. Yes, there's going to be some obvious rotation and some I like that he does this against this team. But I think you will see, in my opinion, I would put the best 11 out there that I can. And that includes Christian Pulisic, that includes Jordan, that includes Josh Sargent. And I think it includes Gio Reyna, although I would like to see Tim Weah.
I would definitely like to see more Tim Weah. I don't care who he's on for. I just want to see him on the field because I think the dude, he's just one of those guys. He makes things happen. You can see
that's what he's done for Lyon.
Yeah, I mean, he's so intentional.
Yeah,
every move.
That said, I'm not quite sure where he fits in with Honduras because his biggest asset is his pace. It's the one thing he has definitely over Gio Reyna. I don't think that'll be as useful against them, but he also is we saw it, the 30 minutes he was in, or 20 minutes he was in, he had a really bright combination play with Weston McKennie where give and go and he's in behind the line. That's where his pace does really make a difference. I don't know. So I just gave you my starting front three. So I think my starting midfielders would be McKennie, Musa. I'm going to put Ewell because I'm not ready to test Tyler Adams yet. And then my back four are, I think you have to go Dest, Brooks, McKenzie, Cannon, and then Stefan in goal. The only thing I could see to that is I could see maybe you have Robinson, Brooks, McKenzie, Dest, and then you figure out what your substitutions are then. But Robinson's the only true left back. So starting him seems like a bit of a risk. I think you start with Dest and you can take him off if you feel comfortable.
It gives you a little more flexibility by having him on the bench. I agree.
Yeah. So that's my 11. What's yours?
I'm with you. I don't think we see Adams. He is training. I just don't think you test it. Yeah, or if you do, you give him 15, 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. But even then, I'm sitting him the whole time.
Best case scenario, you're up a goal or two by the 70th minute, and you can put Adams on because he's got to help, put out all the fires that are about to ensue.
Right. Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's if you do that. I'd probably play it a little bit more cautiously and just save him.
Because you can put Acosta there as well, and he can. I'm not going to say he's going to put out fires the way that Adams does, but he's
right. But hey, he's no slouch.
No.
Okay. I'm with you with McKennie and Musa. That's what I want to see. I don't know if that's what Berhalter's going to do, but like I just talked about a second ago, I think a McKennie Musa dual 8 gives you more balance in the midfield than a McKennie Leggett. And again, I don't want people to think that I'm taking anything away from Leggett. I'm not. I think
that Leggett is a very quality player, but there are players on this roster that are more quality than he is, and that's the reality.
And I think it's just the role, right? If I'm looking at playing a more offensive 8, I'm probably going to give the edge to Leggett right now over Musa. But if I'm looking at more probably right now, as far as form, you can't argue that.
In terms of how they play with the system, absolutely, that's how I feel.
Yeah, with a U.S. shirt on, Leggett has been one of the best attacking players by far, and I don't care who you are, you can't argue it. it's numbers are numbers. But I think Musa he gives you much more balance in that box to box role. So I want to see that. Plus, he'll be fresh. He only got 20 minutes or so.
Right.
And then defensively, Brooks and McKenzie, left and right center back. That's, I think, pretty locked.
Yeah, and I do say that I don't think McKenzie playing all 90 is that big of a deal because, I mean, they defended a lot, but center backs are used to going all 90, and he didn't play a whole lot for Genk, so it's not like he has like thousands of minutes on his legs.
Right. I think he can definitely do it. I don't think we see Ream. I don't know if we'll ever see Ream again. I know how you feel about it.
I liked Tim Ream up until this year, where it was very apparent. And I mean, like this season for Fulham, where it was like he wasn't playing for Fulham all that much. When he did, he wasn't really that great.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, he's just at that age where you're not fast anymore. Sorry, I really hate to say it.
It breaks my heart because he was literally. I'm born October 7th, 1987, and he was born October 5th, 1987, I believe. So we're literally the exact same age. And as a soccer player, I like to think that I still have some speed, but I do. I mean, I have slowed down.
You're not as fast as that 21-year-old. I'm sorry.
I'm not. That's my game. I was all speed. That's who I was.
Tim Ream has never had that. That's the other thing. He's never been
it breaks my heart a little bit.
Yeah, and the other thing too with Tim Ream, and I mean this in all sincerity, is because I was going back and forth on Twitter with the guy about this, and he's like, well, he's versatile. I'm like, but if he's not able to execute it, then what's the point of the versatility?
Right.
I can play. I was a goalkeeper my entire life. Well, I was a goalkeeper for my formative years of soccer, like not before when it didn't really matter. But I also, because I played out in the field before I was 13, I had skills. Okay, I can play striker. I can play right back. I can play left wing. That doesn't mean I'm going to execute it to the level that it needs to be executed. Right. That's hey, y'all need me to go up there? Okay, fine, I'll do it. I'm playing in the ATL Nations Cup with Soccer in the Streets, and I'm not playing goalkeeper, so I'm going to be the guy who just fills in. I'm like, I'm not going to be great. I'll fill in a hole. The problem with Ream is, okay, you talk about versatility. Well, we don't need a center back who can play left back because we have a very clear starting left back and a guy who can play behind him. We have a guy like Mark McKenzie and I think a little bit Chris Richards who can play both center back positions. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that Ream offered was, okay, you're good on the ball. Well, that's why he was always the Brooks backup. Well, McKenzie and Richards are both good on the ball. Yep. McKenzie is very good on the ball.
I'm with you.
So
their emergence.
And I hate to say it, but again, it's just like you're at that stage in your career where other guys are going to pass you because you might be at your ceiling, but you're probably coming down off of that. And other guys are starting to pass you. And, yes, he has experience and all this, but I don't want to say we've seen the last of him because I think he'll play a role in World Cup qualifying. I mean that. But I think you're going to see in this Gold Cup this summer, hopefully, and as World Cup qualifying goes through, that there are just guys who are better than he is.
Yeah, I think because he was my backup left center back. Like when Brooks gets hurt or not available, he was the guy that I was going to put in over the last couple of years. But I think with Richards and McKenzie's emergence in Europe this last 6 to 12 months, he's been knocked down to the third or fourth spot for the left center back position.
Yeah, he reminds me of Clarence Goodson, where it was like, if he's playing, you're not like, oh God, he's playing until a point where it was not great. But like he was pretty solid. He was never going to be your pinned in starter, but he's the guy who could always be in the squad and you could put in the back line. But there are guys who are just slightly better than he is, and I think that's where Ream is. But I think there are multiple guys who are slightly better than he is right now, and that's just how I feel about Ream. I feel like his versatility and his utility is declining amongst other players. Okay, so you said your back line was what again?
So I was just saying that Brooks and McKenzie are probably my locks. Yeah. That's just the way it's going to be. And the outside backs, that's where it's going to get tricky. I I would probably try to go Dest Cannon again, but I think Berhalter's probably going to give Robinson a run out.
Okay.
Give Dest a little bit of rest because Dest did play a decent amount this past season. Just played a full 90 against Switzerland, and he was up and down. He was up and down a lot. He put a lot of miles on those legs, and so I think he could easily put in Robinson and then let Yedlin be the more attack.
He put in nearly 2,000 minutes this season in La Liga alone for Barcelona.
And honestly, it depends on
that much, to be honest. That's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah,
I didn't realize it was that much. Honestly, I was like, "Wow,
there's a ton of minutes. He played a lot." I think it depends on where Elise is going to play. He plays a lot on the left.
Yeah,
but if he's coming down that right side, Robinson to me is the only player on the roster that's going to be able to hang with Elise's speed. And somewhat shut him down. I say shut him down. I guess slow him down.
Yeah.
But if he's playing on the left side, then it doesn't matter. Yedlin, speed for speed. Yedlin's
fast.
He's a little older, but
he's fast.
But he is quick. Yeah. So maybe you do that. Maybe you have Yedlin and Robinson because Elise is probably going to be switching left and right. But you have them on the outside to mitigate that speed. I could see that.
Yeah, I think that's the only player you really have to account for. And
right, exactly.
Other than that, we mentioned Romel Kyoto, but he's not going to be that type of player. He's going to get on the ball and beat you on the dribble. Very good at that. It does scare me that he might be going up against John Brooks to do that. But okay, so that's I'm interested to see because I do think I think our best lineup is with Dest and Cannon personally.
Agreed.
But I do think that based on the minutes that Dest played / just preparing for Honduras, I'll be interested to see how this happens. But going back to the whole how is Honduras going to set up again, I don't want to call it a bunker because I hate to call it a bunker.
Mm-hmm.
But they are very defensively compact to try to win the ball back. That's how they try to win the ball is to force you into a bad pass so they can get onto it and spring forward. It's not bunkering the way that, it's not a freaking West Bromwich Albion Sam Allardyce bunker,
Yeah.
So I'm concerned in that regard, but I do think that Dest is the best attacking defender we have. And with the system that wants to get 5 players, a player in all 5 channels of the attacking third, he's going to give us the best option to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you said he's one of the best attacking defenders we have. He's
one of the best attackers on the team.
By far. I mean, it is so fun watching him play. Yeah. So exciting. Every time he touches the ball, it's like, oh my gosh, what's he going to do? He pulls off an elastico like it's nothing. Just at speed too. It's unreal. But I think you can give some guys a rest. Again, not looking past Honduras, but trying to manage minutes.
And if it doesn't go well the first half, you can easily make a change.
You can make changes, absolutely. I think he's going to do something like that. And like you said, where we're going to see more rotations, probably those outside backs, just because of the ground they do cover and what Berhalter asks our fullbacks to do.
Yeah. I would prefer it to be at the 60-minute mark after we've got a lead than, trying out. But anyway, all right. U.S. plays Honduras 7:30 p.m. at Empower Field at Mile High in Denver, Colorado, at altitude. For some reason, Concacaf chose that. And whatever. We used all the Texas stadiums for Gold Cup, so we had to give someone else a bone. Honduras, USA, you've got Group A winner versus Group C winner. You've got the 67th team in the world in Honduras against the 30th team in the world in the United States. My question to you, Caleb, is who wins and how?
I don't think it's going to be a bloodbath, but I think the U.S. wins handedly, I guess you could say.
Oh, okay.
I think it's going to be 2-3-0. To be honest with you, I really do.
Wow.
I think we're gonna handle them, like you said. They have some good attacking players, but it's mostly Elise that you got to worry about. If we can control and slow him down, and not just get beat behind, then I think we control what they're trying to do. And I think after a while, it might take a minute. I think we figure some stuff out. You're going to have some probably individual performances, Pulisic breaking them down, taking guys 1v1, making things happen. We have the individual attacking talent to make something happen. And I think we see that. And I think Pulisic's going to be coming in with unbelievable amounts of confidence. He won a game over the weekend. It was not a big deal.
A little bit of importance.
Yeah. So, I mean, coming off that, you got to think that he's going to just try to put the team on his shoulders and be Captain America. And I think that'd be incredible to watch. I think we're going to break him down and we're going to have our way with him. But I mean, I don't think it's going to be a Cuba bloodbath though. 7-0.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be like that, but I think we win.
Okay.
Confidently.
Okay. I am less confident that it is as secure of a win as you are. I think we're going to win 2-1. I think this will play out very similarly to the Concacaf Olympic qualifying game, but because we have just better players, we're less likely to give up possession as easily, and we have better defenders, so we're more capable of dealing with what Honduras is going to throw at us in counterattack. But that said, I do think what I really think will show itself from that league or from that match is we're going to win based on a moment of individual brilliance. And Jackson Ewell, because of the way Honduras defends, they're going to give you a little bit of space. He attacked that space, took a shot, and it went in. And I think that if you're giving a guy like Serginho Dest time and space, if you're giving Christian Pulisic any type of space, a guy like Gio Reyna space, those are even Weston McKennie or Sebastian Lletget, whoever plays that other 8, even Musa to an extent, they're going to be able to make some magic happen, especially Pulisic, Reyna, and Dest. And when you have 3 guys who can do that, especially 2 on one, Dest will be paired up with one of them on a wing, and that's going to be a lot to handle. So I think that we win 2-1 based on a little bit of individual brilliance. I don't think we shut out Honduras. I really don't, because I think they are pretty lethal in attack when you look at guys like Albert Elise and Romel Kyoto. I think those are very solid players who can give us a lot of problems. So I just don't think we shut them out, but I think we win. I'm confident we win. I'm just not as confident as you are that it's going to be like locked up. We'll be fine.
The only thing I'm afraid of is if they get behind. If they get behind us.
Yep. Yeah.
If we can keep them in front of us, I'm not afraid of.
I'm okay with at least running at our defenders with the ball. Right. I'm okay with Kyoto running at our defenders with the ball. I'm not okay with Elise or Rodriguez even or Kyoto if they get in behind.
Exactly.
I'm with you.
That's
scary.
what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
But I think there's no way that Berhalter doesn't know that. If you and I know that, surely to God he knows that, or somebody on his staff.
Does he do something about it is my question.
So, yeah, well, there you go. So, I mean, if our guys aren't pushing super, super, super high, when I say our guys, I mean our back 2 basically, and then our 6 if he's dropping in a little bit more. If we can keep them at bay and don't let them get behind us, and then off to the races, because they're going to beat us for pace every single time. If that doesn't happen, I don't think they're going to trouble us. But again, that's a big if.
So I'm going to put out an article. Actually, by the time this podcast is out, this piece will be up on soccerdownhere.net. And I just want to take some time to talk to Greg Berhalter about where we are as a program. And basically my message is very simple. It's time to start winning. I said this in the last episode. Experimentation, I'm done with it. these matches and every match we're going to play from now until March 29th of 2022, March 30th, every match counts. You need to go out there and try to win them. We're done experimenting. We're done tinkering. We're done trying to see if this system can do this or if this player can do this in the system. I'm done with it. Mm-hmm. You need to be done with it. It is time to put your best 11 players out there in their best position possible to win the damn game. It starts against Honduras. I don't want to see because here's my problem. We have not seen a proof of concept from Greg Berhalter's system yet. We thought we were going to get it in the Olympic qualifiers. Now, we can talk about all what happened there. That's fine. I get it. It wasn't the best situation. But you failed to qualify for the Olympics. That may not be necessarily on Berhalter. That is a problem with the program. Yeah. And we'll talk about those guys above him. But for Berhalter, you have to show me that the way that you want to play, your system, your style, your philosophy, this new way to play soccer in America, you have to show me that it's worth it. And it starts with this tournament.
I think it does.
It doesn't even start with beating Honduras, to be quite honest, because you should beat Honduras.
Yeah.
You should beat Honduras. You were 37 points higher than them in the rankings.
Yeah.
That is a sizable gap.
Yeah.
You should beat them.
Absolutely.
If you don't beat them and you don't look somewhat convincing, I'm going to be a problem. Bruce Arena beat Honduras 6-0 at home in qualifying. Okay? Mm-hmm. We can do this. That is not a problem. We have better players. And then it goes to Mexico. Or Costa Rica. Two teams who we managed 1 point in all 4 matches against them in 2017. So Berhalter, if you want to show me that this is the way to play, this is the way forward for the United States men's national program, you need to show me something you need to definitively show it to me against Honduras, and you need to look damn good against Mexico or Costa Rica in that championship match, not a third place match. You need to be playing for a trophy. We are playing for trophies. We are playing competitive matches that mean something from here until March 30th, 2022. You have to win. I'm not saying you have to win all of them. But you need to play to win all of them. Yeah. We're done experimenting.
Well, I think you said it. It starts with this tournament. And I think it does. I think it does start with this tournament. I think that he has been looking at this kind of as the beginning of this is go time, basically.
It needs to be.
Because
there's one non-competitive match against Costa Rica next week. I am so sorry.
Right. But I mean, up until now, the last year, 2 years, I mean, you can look at the Gold Cup in 2018. There were competitive matches, right? It was a tournament. But we
never saw the best.
He was just appointed, and he was trying to implement a system, but also look at the player pool.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the fact that we got to the final was kind of insane.
We have guys on this team that have won – multiple guys on this team that have won leagues in Europe. A guy who won Champions League.
Exactly.
We have multiple guys who have won domestic cups this year. They've been winning trophies all year long.
There's a winning
bring them here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where he's looking at. This is where it starts. If we don't look good this tournament, I'm 100% with you. There needs to be some tough questions asked.
Well, and again, the goal is to qualify for the World Cup. But you have to give this fan base confidence that you can do it, because the unfortunate reality for Berhalter is a lot of people don't have confidence in him because of the way he was chosen to be this manager. That's not his fault.
Yeah.
But it is the reality, and I couple that with the lack of confidence we have in the program for missing 2018 World Cup, not looking great really since then. The best we've looked was in 2018 when Dave Sarachan just said, "Guys, go play."
Yeah,
and that's where Berhalter has to show. You have to show proof of concept. which means that this system is the way to win for the U.S. men's national team program going forward.
I think this is by far the most talented roster, player pool, period, that the U.S. has had in a long time. And you can't squander that. If you're messing up with this much talent, there's problems. You got to go and you got to start proving it. I'm with you.
All right. Well, that, again, like I said, kicks off Thursday. You can watch it on Paramount Plus. You can apparently watch it on CBS Sportsnet. You can watch it on Univision, your local broadcast channel for the Spanish language broadcast. Again, 7:30 kickoff. It should be 7:30. I think CBS has done a pretty good job and learned from Champions League that you just schedule your damn pregame show before the match. And hopefully we don't have a situation like we did on Sunday with ESPN broadcasting a game before it. Although
I was just about to say,
So one advantage that Fox has figured out is you just build that buffer in of 20 minutes. But 7:30 p.m. kick, USA versus Honduras. This is the test. All the tests are done. The pre-test, the focus groups, the whatever. This is what matters, and it's time to go win. So let's go see if we can do it.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, Caleb, thanks again for joining me. Hope to talk with you after the tournament. We can evaluate it as a whole thing, not just one game at a time after the Nations League is finished up. So, Caleb, thanks again for joining me.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Well, thanks again to Caleb Cook of USMNT Corner on Twitter for joining me to look ahead at the U.S. men's national team's match against Honduras and the Nations League as a whole. Always appreciate him coming on to the show. Now I'm going to do some rapid fire question and answer. Thank you, everyone, for giving us your questions on Twitter. You can follow the show at Soccer for Us Pod. I appreciate everyone who interacts with that account, and especially to the people who gave us some questions. Now, some of these we kind of answered in the show, but I wanted to hit them anyway. All right. First up is Soccer Dad on Twitter at WVSoccerDad. Congrats, by the way, to the Marshall Thundering Herd of West Virginia for winning the College Cup. That's pretty awesome. As a transplant West Virginian, an expat West Virginian, it's a weird situation. Congrats to Marshall for winning. All right, Soccer Dad's question is, who starts on the right wing opposite Pulisic, Reyna, Weah, or Aronson? And do we use the 5-man backline if Adams can't go and just play McKinney and Musa in midfield? The first question I think we answered. I think it is Reyna on the right. I don't think Aronson starts. And I believe Caleb agrees with me. Do we see the 5-man backline? No, I don't, because I just don't think that we've worked on it enough. Now, I would like to see us work on that because I do think it is something we can use in qualification, but I don't think we see the back three or back five, if you will, in Nations League. All right, next question is Jason Elliott at JasonElliott77 on Twitter. With the team losing by 1 goal going into the 60th minute, what tactics and subs do you make? Well, based on the starting lineup that I gave, I would bring on, depending on who's not having a great game, I would probably bring Lletget on for Musa, just because I think Lletget is a more attacking option. I could also see perhaps Lletget coming on for Ewell and Musa moving back to the 6 and allowing McKinney and Lletget to attack that side. I could also see possibly, I had Reggie Cannon starting. I could see Reggie Cannon coming off, Des going to the right, and Anthony Robinson coming on for Cannon and going into the left side. So I think those would be two moves you could make. And then also I think Tim Weah is on the bench to put in wherever you might think he might go. I think he could be right wing, left wing, or striker. Just depends on where Berhalter thinks he might be useful. Next question, JK Howe on Twitter at JKHowe_. What will be the percentage of fans from each country each day? So this is going to be interesting because I'm not entirely sure what the capacity limits are at Empower Field at Mile High. I think that you will see a very good U.S.-based turnout for the USA-Honduras match. I know American Outlaws will be in the stands, so you will have U.S. soccer fans there for sure. And obviously you'll have a lot of Mexico fans. I would say that for the first day, you're looking at probably 60-40 Mexico to USA. And then I think for the final, it really just depends. Most people probably bought both of them together. And I think, again, it'll probably be 60-40 Mexico to USA fans, just because I do think that U.S. soccer and Concacaf hit up U.S. soccer fans, and just the likelihood you're going to have more U.S. soccer fans there, given all the COVID restrictions. So thanks for that question, J.K. Howe. And that brings a conclusion to our question and answer session. Again, thanks for answering or asking the questions. You can tweet at the show at Soccer for Us Pod, and I would appreciate that. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to Soccer Down Here on whatever podcatcher you're listening to this show right now. That will get you the SDH Daily Show, where I occasionally do hits, and other content coming out of the SDH network. I appreciate Caleb for joining me. I appreciate you for listening. I'm Bart. I'm out.